Okay, this is a Yongli CO2 power meter, and we are going to use this to determine whether an alignment is good or not. Stay tuned. Okay, very first thing I'm going to do here is set my power up to 99% so that I can get an accurate reading of my laser now with my alignment correct. The way the power meter operates is I place it in front of the laser beam and activate it, and then I press the pulse and hold it at 99.9%. As the power builds up on the detector, it will then read the full power at the laser head. In this case, it is 80.3 watts. As a reference point, I'm going to pulse the number 2 mirror to determine where the beam is hitting right now while it is aligned. You'll notice I'm using a piece of acrylic instead of masking tape. This way it gives me a far better indication of the actual pulse. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to shift the number 2 mirror so that it is 2 millimeters off of center. This will allow me to pulse the beam and measure the power at the off-center location. I've sped up the video so that it's a little bit faster and a little less time consuming. Now I'm going to mount another piece of acrylic here and pulse to show where the actual pulse lays on the mirror. I've lined up the acrylic so that the pulses can be measured against each other. Now you can see here the upper one is the one that I just measured, and the lower one is the one that is centered. I'm just drawing lines here to mark where the edges of the mirrors are, as well as where the center of the pulse is in comparison to the lower on-center pulse. So the upper one here is 2 millimeters off center. I actually measure it a little bit later. And now I'm going to measure the power at the laser head with the pulse 2 millimeters off of center. And here you can see my power has been reduced to approximately 77.9 watts. That's only a loss of approximately 2.2 watts, which is not a great deal. So now I'm going to do, I've moved the mount so it is now 4 millimeters off of center, and I'm going to do another pulse and measure it. In this case, I'm actually going to measure where the pulses line up with each other. And now, the middle pulse, I've measured it as being 2 millimeters off of center of the lower pulse, and the upper one is now 4 millimeters off of center. And we'll measure the power now with it 4 millimeters off center. And you can see, first off, you can see how the power builds up slowly on the tester. And it ends up peaking out at just over 40 watts. Let's see what's happening here. Well, first off, in this graphic, you can see how the mirror itself is not actually circular when looking through the opening of the mount. It is oval in shape, and that is because it is mounted at 45 degrees to the beam. So when the beam comes in, if it is center, it will reflect off the middle, and 100% of the beam will be fired off to the next mirror. In this figure, the upper diagram shows a laser beam that is hitting dead center. In this case, my laser beam is 8.4 millimeters in diameter because that is how I measured my beam when I fired it into a block of acrylic. It hits dead center, and all 8.4 millimeters of the beam is reflected to the next mirror. The lower diagram, on the other hand, has the beam off-center by approximately 4 millimeters, and although 8.4 millimeters goes in, only 5.8 millimeters comes out. As you can see, the beam is actually being clipped by the frame of the mount. I was even surprised at this when I measured the power, that it reduced the power by almost half. As a final test, I'll measure the power after mirror number 3. In this case, you can see the power building up on the CO2 power meter, and it tops out at 79.3 watts. I'm happy with that.
So there you have it. Having the beam as center as you can get on a mirror is very important. Otherwise, it is very easy to clip, especially on mirrors 1 and 2, if the beam is off to the side. With mirror number 3, because of the orientation of its mirror, it is only critical for up and down. Side to side, you have a little bit more play. I hope this is helpful and goes a ways to explaining why aligning your mirrors, not just in getting coincidental pulses, is important, but also having those pulses center of your mirror is also important. And with that, I hope everyone has a good day.